Hi guys. Some time back I did a lecture for an international event and they put this out all over the world. But part of this event was allowing people to contact me with their questions in regards to the lecture I'd given. In this video, I'm going to be covering some of the most interesting questions that were delivered to me and my responses. I think you'll find it quite interesting. So I hope you enjoy this video. We've had, I can see, a lot of questions have come in, a considerable amount. So what we've done is we've asked our team to randomly pick 10 questions from the people that watched the lecture, and we have them here right in front of me. So we have 10 questions here. So let's crack on and get through them. The first one is from Michael Richards from Los Angeles, and he asked the question, why do you think some people are extremely frightened by their encounters with UFOs? That's a good question, Michael, because a lot of people are frightened about those particular type of experiences. Don't get me wrong though, there are people that claim to have good experiences. However, we do know that some of this phenomena in some cases purposely generates infrasonic sounds. We know this by the stereotypical incidents such as insects suddenly falling quiet at the time. If you know, actually, Steven Spielberg actually put that into his Close Encounters movie where all the crickets suddenly went completely quiet, and then there was this experience that happened. Now, that wasn't by chance. He'd looked through numerous reports, and there was quite a lot of those things have been documented where people during their UFO experience, there's a deadly quiet. Under the assumption that they're utilizing infrasonic sound, is that insects can hear that, and if you take for an example crickets, that as you're walking through tall grass, you'll notice they will go quiet in the surroundings, because going through tall grass, as you rub against the grass, it generates an infrasonic sound which you cannot hear, and the crickets assume that there's a predator and fall quiet. And then over a period of time, if you stand still long enough, they'll start making their noise again, chirping. So I think in some cases UFOs are generating that fear response. Now, to do that, they have to kind of generate around about an 18 or 19 hertz, well, 18.98 hertz, or notably the 19 hertz fear frequency, as it's referred to, where people are having those experiences of induced fear through the emotion of infrasonic sounds, experiencing that. And I might not hear it, but we certainly experience those particular feelings according to the sounds that are being generated in that environment. But then there is also that people sometimes do get fearful, because it suddenly flashes through their minds as to what type of experience may they have should they encounter something at a close range. That can be worrying, because not all incidents are love and light, as you probably may know through my presentations. We don't know what type of experience that we might have, and certainly there's been people that have had experiences that wish they never had. So we have to take that into consideration. But I think sometimes it's just, there is an excitement, there's a glamoring effect sometimes that happens by the UFOs, and you kind of get drawn into the situation. And sometimes I believe some people are taking steps forward towards the phenomenon when maybe they ought to take in a couple of steps back, and that's kind of down to listening to our own body responses. And as I've mentioned in my lectures previously, it's a very good question. So that's why some people might be fearing some of this phenomenon. Over to Susan Lang, who sent a question in from Idaho. Susan asked, hi Steve, how do you think these UFOs are getting here? Well, there's a number of theories as to where these UFOs are coming from. I mean, my mentors told me when I started in this subject 38 years ago that UFOs constitute a physical craft which is traveling the distances of space by alien beings. But as we know, as we've moved forward in the subject of UFO research, that isn't quite exactly what's happening. In fact, there's very little evidence to support that a superhighway of UFOs are travelling to Earth. And it'd have to be a superhighway because the amount of UFO sightings that are seen periodically on a daily basis around the world is tremendous. Though that some of them may be hoaxes, some of them may be misidentifications, those sort of things, it still leaves a considerable large amount of sightings. So where are they all coming from? Well, I am more inclined to think that a lot of this phenomenon is manifesting in key locations, materializing and dematerializing. And I think the more common theory now is that these things might be from another reality, some type of another dimension, a parallel world maybe, and they're utilizing some form of quantum physics and jumping through from one place to another. And it's interesting to note that these UFOs certainly seem to manifest, absolutely manifest in key locations around the planet. And the first research into this, I believe, was in 1982 by the US government, looking at 7 key locations in association to UFO manifestations. So I believe that they're more likely not travelling the vast distances of space. They could be jumping. You could jump from there could be star jumpers, as we say. You know, the amount of magnetic phenomena around the sun, and we do have a lot of UFOs seen around the sun by the SOHO satellites, filming them and photographing them on a daily basis. That these things seemingly seem coming out of the sun on many occasions. Is that a key point from locations, to jumping from one star to another? Maybe. I'm really not too sure. But one thing is for sure is the fact is that these things aren't just simply traversing the vast distances of space, passing through our ionosphere in their thousands. We'd see them. You know, it's like a boat travelling through the wake of water. It leaves a trace in the ionosphere which is detectable to equipment very easily. And we're not seeing that. Though that we do have objects in space, but not on the scale that are being reported. So the question, where are they coming from? I believe this phenomenon is right here under our noses. We're just unaware of it. So, good question, Susan. We have one from Peter Galloway, and he's also in Los Angeles. And Peter asks, where can I find out more about your research and Project Doorway? We've done a number of lectures on Project Doorway, so there's quite a bit available on YouTube. We've also done a UITC course. UITC course is the UFO Investigators Training course. I actually have one here somewhere. Here we go. This is the UITC course. It's glossy, and it's a full course, but it doesn't end. The course never ends, actually, because there's always something new to find and new to discover, new to research. And it's also available as an online course, so feel free to get in touch about them. You can find out some personal details about the UITC course on the Phenomena magazine website, for which I'm the CEO of, and that's www.phenomenamagazine.co.uk, and look under courses there. There's some details there about the course. It's probably the most popular course in the world. I know since its early days and transitions from the British Investigators Training course to the UFO and Training course. And because the course doesn't end, anybody that's obtaining it will receive the free modular update, so it's a continuing course. And as we find out information, you find out information. It's as simple as that. And that's exactly how it should be on any course, because, you know, we're always learning new stuff, so it shouldn't be static. I mean, the subject of ufology has been static for far too long. And this course looks at new areas of research, gravitational disturbances. It introduces the paranormal and the supernatural, and the reasons why is because the ufology, the UFO, real UFO encounters actually consist of those things. They always have done. But unfortunately we were taught to look just to stay within our box of ufology and not the box of the paranormal, supernatural, spiritual, metaphysical. And the problem is that we will never get a clear picture because we're not looking at the whole picture. We need to look at the whole picture by pulling those walls down and encompassing all them as a phenomenology for us to gain some answers. And now we are. You know, this subject of ufology started in the realms of metaphysical circles and mediumship circles. And and information coming through, and then apparition type stuff and manifestations. So, you know, there's always been a strong connection with the paranormal, and to learn more about that, it's the UITC course, which is available on the MUFON website. So that's kind of where you can find Project Doorway stuff in there, because there's a considerable amount of those, of the information in Project Doorway. It's already been wrote into the course, and it's full of details from academics all around the world. You know, and it's you need to find out the good information. You need to go to the main guys, the academics, and allow them to provide that information for you. And that's exactly what we've done. It's the most comprehensive course in the world at this moment in time, and probably the most popular. I know a couple of MUFON investigators which have also got hold of this course and are utilising it. So thanks for that, Peter. Tracy Hammond from Oregon. Steve, do you think paranormal apports come from another reality similar to where UFOs come from? Well, do you know what? That's a really good question, because you know we've covered this in our presentations. Coming from a forensic parapsychology background, from my research and in the paranormal, after doing a considerable amount of work in those fields and a number of studies, some of which are still not available for the general public yet, but they will be over a period of, say, release of 5 years, is that there are a connection. There's a connection between the UFO phenomena and the paranormal phenomena. And as stated in our lectures, that in regards to the apport that you mentioned, Tracy, apports do suddenly appear during paranormal phenomena, poltergeist disturbances. They disappear and reappear. What we did do is we measured the displacement effect. The displacement effect is between where the apport is found and where it originally was. And what tends to happen is that your reoccurring numbers of measurements tend to be found, which indicates that this is some form of mechanism. It's intelligent. There's a kind of a rule book at play here. For anybody who's doing long-term research into parapsychological studies, will find these things. But also, when the apport or an object is moved, sometimes there's a footprint or residue left behind, which is traced by EMF, electromagnetic frequencies. A field at exactly the location where the apport was found, but it's short-lived. We believe the apported field, which was being measured by EMF, is likely to be some form of very small gravitational disturbance, and I'll tell you the reasons why. If we look at the manifestation of a UFO phenomena, a manifestation, a UFO just suddenly manifested in a field, and affected the plants in its field. We assume the UFO had a field around it, and whatever was caught within that field was adversely affected. These things, what were adversely affected, would be the plants. And these plants were looked at by scientists, and it's known as biological traumatology of those plants. And what was found within them was a diathermic reaction, a very unusual form of diathermic reaction. It is the very same form of diathermic reaction that we found when we placed the apported mug, for an example, if it was a mug, and we broke it up and put it under the microscope. Well, microscopy, atomic microscopy, and the details from that showed that it had been adversely affected by a diathermic reaction. The very same diathermic reaction that we find in other key locations associated to the UFO phenomena. So could a manifestation of an object during an apportation and a manifestation of a UFO be utilising the same physics? And this is what we call paranormal mechanics, the study of paranormal mechanics and how it leads into modern day UFO phenomena. So I do believe there's a connection. There are many connections. I mean, even if you just look at the paralysis, incidents of reported paralysis during the paranormal phenomena, you know, strange shadow appeared in the room, I was paralysed, couldn't move, Or in a UFO situation, you would have small beings seen in the room and I was paralysed, couldn't move. Lots of same things. There's many different things like that connect these two things together. So I think it's important not to ignore them. So for me, after 38 years, I'll say absolutely. There's a definite connection between some of this UFO phenomena and the paranormal phenomena as well. Roger Wilkinson from Arkansas. Steve, you mentioned conjuring the phenomena in your presentation. What does that consist of? Well, conjuring the phenomena is something that comes from the paranormal realms of research, and it started with mediumistics around tables conducting certain types of seances, and these mediums are all of the same mindset, and they're all trying to achieve the same thing. And over a period of time, phenomena starts to be experienced or witnessed. In some cases, it's incredible types of phenomena have been encountered during these sittings. Conjuring the phenomena, in a sense, is, could we conjure? Is it us? Are we part of that conduit? In other words, the observers or experiencers are directly connected with the phenomena somehow, and the two cause the manifestation. Can we conjure these things? In a sense of speaking, in the old days it would be referred to as magic, which Stephen Greer is involved in. Taking 5 meditators out and meditating, and then after a short time you might get some light phenomena in the sky, or something strange is seen, or strange apparitional type things being captured on camera. It's no different than the mediumistic circles. It's exactly the same process of having 5 mediums do it or 5 meditators do it. I believe sometimes the phenomena can be conjured, but I also believe that the conjured phenomena is a real phenomena. It isn't a topo. It isn't, it isn't something that it is the real phenomena, because people have experienced just exactly the same type of unusual encounters through the process of conjuring. So just as they have in the paranormal. So I believe that phenomena can be conjured, and some people are better than others. I mean, there are some people which claim, well, I can go out there and summon a UFO, and cameras have been at the ready and something is seen. However, how common that might happen is unclear at this moment in time. But I have experienced and witnessed conjured phenomena on the UFO and the paranormal side, and they both are very similar, if not identical, thing taking place. So I believe that the process of conjuring is a possibility. We have Janet Wilkes from Ireland. Well, that's where Barry Fitzgerald lives, in Ireland. So you mentioned about positive magnetic regions, first identified as locations where there are high amounts of UFO activity. When did this first happen? Well, when were positive magnetic regions identified? Well, that's a good question, because I don't think they were always referred to as positive magnetic regions, but certainly positive or magnetic positive anomalies. We do know, as far as I'm aware, go back to 1982, Philip Corso talked of the US military looking into at least 7 key locations of high or potent positive magnetic regions in association to UFO manifestations. In other words, just like places like Skinwalker Ranch, which is a very positive magnetic region, they seem to just manifest in the sky and go about their business. Sometimes they also seem to return a location to dematerialize in some cases. There's definitely a connection between the major UFO incidents and the regions of where they take place. Statistically, if we take hundreds of cases like we have and analyze the locations against the satellite information that we gathered regarding the magnetic anomalies, there's a correlation, a very high correlation, and not just to UFO sightings. Paranormal disturbances is another one. Cryptid sightings like Bigfoot incidents, and even disappearances, which are a little bit worrying, to be honest. And these all happen So tend to happen in positive magnetic regions where the most significant UFO encounters have been reported to date. So I believe it might have been before 1982, but I'm aware of 1982. But we're seeing more of this from more recent times, and of course NASA's announcement of electron diffusion regions, which are in space between ourselves and the sun, which are, in fact, as they say, if you can Google it, they call them, NASA, portals. And I don't particularly like the word. It's very sounds a little bit more fantasy to me, but that's what they're referring them to. So whatever these things are, I believe they're real. Absolutely. I've seen phenomena manifest and demanifest, just completely disappear through something that looks like a void in the sky. I've seen it on a couple of occasions in key locations. So I believe there's a correlation between the region and the phenomena, and this isn't something that's new. I think it's been going on for a long time, but we're just kind of starting to realize now that there's certain places where they seem to be coming in and going out. Tony Hampton, he's in the UK. Well, Tony, what is the best, he asks, what is the best way of locating a gravitational disturbance? Well, I've talked in my presentation about gravitational disturbances, and that kind of comes from the continuation of phenomena taking place in key locations. If you can get there relatively quickly to when they were last seen in that location, then certain tests can be carried out, time displacement meters can be carried out. That will give us the data, but how do we visually see this? Well, we can see this affect light sources. If we pass a light source through the anomaly, even though it's short-lived, if you can get there quick enough and pass a light source through that anomaly, then you can see that light source slightly bend like the string of a bow. And it, like I say, it only lasts 36, 48, 72 hours at the most, if we're really lucky. And it's as if that the manifestation of these UFOs, like two things can't exist in the same place and time. So something's taken out as the manifestation of the UFO takes place, which means that it somehow affects there's a residue, it affects the location, and that location is measurable and identifiable visually through utilizing a laser through the anomaly. There are details in here how to conduct all these tests, and it's very easily done. It's just knowing how to go about it and when to go about it. But you can get some great evidence on tape. So I believe that's a good way to identify them, is looking for those locations where there's a constant or regular reported incidents. It's very easy to do at key locations, and then you can keep an eye on those locations, which coincidentally fall under positive magnetic regions. We've actually been to a number of these purposely and witnessed phenomena firsthand, and to be honest, it's incredible when they suddenly just manifest as if they were always there and suddenly they switch a switch and they're there, you know. And exactly the same thing for disappearing. They just gone like that with a blink of an eye. Not that they've moved off quickly, I think they've just dematerialized. So these are the traits of the real phenomenon, not so much in regards to UAP, which, you know, if anybody asks me, and you probably see some more of my research around online for sure, that I believe some of this UAP technology is actually our technology, our advanced technology, but that's a whole other area. Susan Wallacey asks, and she's from the UK as well, Steve, are UFO metamaterials made from extraterrestrial properties? Wow, very good question. From what I know, the only thing that's different from them, they're made up of materials that we can find on Earth, like, you know, silver, magnesium, bismuth, etc. And these things are present on planet Earth, as they are on other planets. However, what they did note under analysis of looking at UFO metamaterials was that there was an isotopic differential of 4%. We're only looking for an isotopic differential of 1% to suggest that it wasn't that isotope suggests it might not have come from here, a terrestrial Earth isotope. Which is interesting because it would suggest one of two things. Being a 4% differential in isotopes would suggest two things. The first thing would be that during the process of manufacture, something happens where a number of the isotopes are altered through the process of manufacture. However, more likely is the fact that they're actually items, these are bismuth, magnesium, silver, etc., are not terrestrial in origin. They actually come from somewhere else. It's exactly the same type of stuff we have here on Earth, but it has an isotope identification. Earth's isotope identification differs, say, from Mars, the isotopes of minerals or rocks on Mars, or metals. So we are a little bit stumped with that. You know, where are they actually coming from? Did they come from somewhere? Does it make them extraterrestrial? Well, if they were done through the production and the isotopic levels changed through the process of making them, then not necessarily. We can't prove they're extraterrestrial. What is interesting to know is that there was suggestions that isotopic levels have been found in other items like alien implants, you know. However, I've talked with a number of researchers on that matter, and it's a little bit, excuse the pun, a grey area as to if that's true or not. So yes, I believe that some of them could be extraterrestrial, but not necessarily if they're manufactured already. It's a process that's changed the isotopic level through making them. Margot Kramer asks, and she's from the other side of the world in the UK, Sydney, Australia. Thanks, Margot. This is an interesting question. Steve, do you think UFO occupants are sometimes aware that they are being watched? Well, Margot, this kind of falls into the conscious connection. And there's absolute, overwhelming amount of evidence to support there's a conscious connection between the real phenomena. When I say about the real phenomena, I'm not talking about our technology, which might be flying around in the skies, which is difficult to identify. But I'm talking about the real phenomena. There were times when pilots were given the shoot down order. It's happened in the UK as well. And what they have reported is that just as they get weapon lock onto these things, they do a maneuver, an evasive maneuver. And the pilot tries again, and what happens? They conduct another evasive maneuver. It's as if, and as pilots have stated, they knew what they were thinking. They have seemingly have a conscious connection even with the pilots that are pursuing them, and seemingly know what they're trying to do and when they're going to do it. It's the only thing I can think of to try and explain those incidents. It's happened far too often for it to be just a accidental, a coincidence. It goes on quite a lot, and there's a conscious connection between people who report seeing these UFOs and having encounters. Sometimes the UFOs mimic maneuvers. Sometimes they seemingly will show up when you just put your camera away. You know, they don't want to get photographed and filmed, and that does happen. It's happened to us. Sometimes they allow us to photograph and video him. Other times, not a chance until we actually put the camera equipment in the trunk and slam that shut, bang, then they'll appear. And it's annoying sometimes and frustrating, but we also know that they must be aware of our actions. And if that is the case, just like paranormal phenomena does, when asking set questions and they give us the answers before we've even asked the question, they know what we're thinking. And if that is the case with the UFO phenomena or its occupants, then I don't know if we can mistake. I don't think we can catch it out. You know, I don't think we can go and hide a camera over in the bush somewhere, because they kind of know what exactly we've done. So it can be a bit frustrating. I understand that, but definitely a conscious connection, most definitely. And question 10, which is unfortunately we are running out of time. Question 10 from Lisa Hall in Canada. How old do you think this phenomenon is, Steve? Well, that's a really good question, because the phenomenon has seemingly changed and has many different masks. And as my colleague Barry Fitzgerald will say, he will say that is, the phenomena is consistent, but it's the mask that changes. Excuse me. And what we've seen over decades, if not hundreds of years, is this phenomena changing its appearance. For instance, in the times when we were just prior to manufacturing airships, phantom airships were seen in the skies. and we don't know what they were. You know, they were very profound. And they were identified as identified as a UFO, or some type of UFO. They didn't know what they were. And it didn't just happen in the States, you know, in the 1800s. It also happened in the UK and in Wales, you know, in the 1800s. But as time passed on into the 1940s, when we started getting involved in rocket technology, we had phantom rockets, we had ghost rockets being reported, and that was another term for UFOs. And they seemingly looked like rockets, and they came down, plummeted from the sky, then a controlled landing. They were cylindrical, sometimes they had portholes on, and they were seen to land in lakes, and lots of hissing noise as if they were very hot, sunk beneath the water, never to be seen again. Even when army officials went out there and dredged the rivers and the lakes, they never were found. So whatever they did, when they go underwater, they obviously traversed under the water as well, which makes it 2 of the 3 transmediums, which ATIP refers to regarding the movement of such objects. From then, you know, I mean, in biblical days, we have biblical sightings, you know, angelic and stuff, you know, but if we take in consideration that angels are probably only likely turned up during the writings of Ezekiel, and not before. So what these biblical encounters were might have been something a bit more befitting for that time, you know, very religious connotations. And now in more modern times, you know, we had in the 1950s, the saucers came, the flying saucers were fitted perfectly well in with a couple of years later regarding all these flying saucer movies. You know, so it was the time, it was that era of the flying saucer. Though people still report seeing saucers, hasn't completely gone, but we do get a lot of unusual different shapes, spheres, triangular sightings, cigars, rectangulars, all sorts of different things now. You know, it's very odd what the phenomena represents. But it does seem to be that it's changed its appearance throughout the eras. Is that just to try and fit in with our conscious understanding of what things are around about that time? It is interesting. So I would say, Lisa, that yeah, absolutely, this phenomenon is age old, and it might have always been here. We might have been the new kids on the block, as far as I'm concerned. But there may have been a ruse, and that ruse is to keep your eyes on the skies, that they are traversing from other planets, and they're coming here. When this phenomenon could in fact be right under our very noses, and we just don't know it. You know, we might not be aware of it, because there's more evidence to support with the information coming forward from, you know, other realities in quantum physics, quantum entanglement, even is, you know, particles which are connected over vast distances of space and time. It's incredible what we're learning now about, and we're even questioning about reality. You know, does our brain create the reality for us, and this is what we experience? Who knows? I mean, we're still learning, and believe it or not, even within the subjects of the real UFO phenomenon, I still think we are in our infancy. Not in regarding technology that might have been obtained from some of these crafts, but certainly in regards to the whole concept of understanding psychologically, in a sense of speaking. So, if for anybody who wants to find out more about this, the UITC course, then feel free to drop onto phenomenamagazine.co.uk. If you have any further questions, I'd love to answer them. And keep your eyes on the skies. I know it sounds a bit corny, but it's true. The more you watch, the more you look, sometimes the more you see. Keep an open mind, because we really don't know what this phenomenon really consists of at this moment in time. But one thing is for sure, it isn't exactly what we initially thought. Thank you very much. A big thank you for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it, and please don't forget to like, share and subscribe, and hit that bell icon for to be notified for our next video. Thank you again for watching.